Hey everybody, we're back with another Midwesthockey.info show. This is kind of a companion piece to an article I wrote. I'm doing some end of the year preview or review things, I guess, and talked about the NHL. Just kind of a last look back combined with a little bit of a look ahead. Welcome, Trent, or thank you, Trent, for letting us use your palatial home here in beautiful Lake Delton. Once again, it's such a great place to do the show, and we sometimes have deer sightings while we're doing it.
That is very true.
Yeah, that to me that's awesome. So we're gonna I think we're probably gonna go one team at a time. And we'll start out with the team from the West that had the best performance, and that was finally the St. Louis Blues, a team that has had really postseason disappointment for the last couple seasons. Last year they were a first round victim of the Minnesota Wild. I think they've run into the Blackhawks a couple times. I say that's the toughest division in the NHL to come out of. They didn't make it out of the conference, but maybe it's because they were beat up in 2 7-game series. But it has to be good for the team and their fans to finally have some playoff success.
Yeah, I definitely think in them re-signing Hitchcock, which was a big question mark at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I think it definitely says that, all right, we finally accomplished something. They got the round 1 victory over Chicago was huge for them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Huge, like total victory win for them. So that was.
Yeah, they could have had a parade in St. Louis for that.
Yeah, that is very true.
That was definitely a big monkey off their back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if they just needed playoff experience. You know, they have a lot of really good players on their team. Obviously, they maybe just lacked a little bit of the playoff experience. They knew how to lose playoff series. They just didn't know how to win one yet. And for me, it was nice to see them finally come through. And that's the kind of year it was in the postseason. You know, you look at San Jose. There's another team that, you know, they really. I thought they missed their window, and this year they come back, and the same thing with the Penguins. I mean, that was a team that, in fact, they fired their coach halfway through the season. I mean, it was not a team that was looking like it was going the right way, but a lot of teams really found their niche, I think, in the postseason this year.
Yeah, I think it was a good year postseason for a lot of teams. You know, a couple of teams like, you know, St. Louis that looking for that next step win. Same thing with San Jose, but definitely a big year for some of those teams. Then you got other teams like Minnesota that they're still looking for that step. So we'll see what that brings for next season.
Yeah, Minnesota's an interesting one. We'll be talking about them later, but there's plenty to talk about there too.
Yes.
Another team that's you know, found it hard to move along in the postseason. Clearly, I think that the key for the Blues in the playoffs this year was the emergence. I don't know if I'd even say emergence. Just Brian Elliott's always been a really good goalie, but he was a key player this year, helping them get through them first 2 rounds. Both of them 7-game series. He won big games, as did Jake Allen. Came off the bench and won some pretty big games for them as well. But the goaltending, I think, was kind of the straw that stirred the drink this year for them.
Yeah, they definitely got a lot. The team just really came together. They're very strong in the back end. They have a great defensive core, which was a big leader for them. And then they had guys like David Backes and Troy Brouwer really step up in the playoffs and play that physical brand of hockey that the Blues like to be known for.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say that because, you know, you hear like a lot of people talking on radio and stories and stuff. And, you know, every year when a team wins the Stanley Cup, you know, the other teams kind of try to emulate what it was that got them there. The Penguins did so this year with really not a physical team, a team that relied more on speed and just tenacity, I guess, and skill, but kind of got away from the banging and crashing and somehow survived 4 tough series. St. Louis was maybe one of the more physical teams in the playoffs, and it's played at least some part in helping them get by Chicago and then Dallas. Do you think that they're close? Like, I know the head coach is back for one more year. They're going to take a shot at making this happen. How close do you think they are?
It's tough to say, They got a lot of free agents, which we'll take a look at.
Yeah.
And it really feels like they're going to be gearing up for a big year, but it really starts right now, Jim, in the way you build your team through the draft, and the draft not so much for this year, but in general, you're going to drafts going back a couple of years.
Yeah.
But also in free agency is a big one. And managing your money. We're everyday Joes. We got to manage our money. These guys, they're throwing around a lot more money, but they still got to manage their money wisely.
Yeah. They're a team that, when you talk about managing their money, they're a team that, because of their position, I think, in recent seasons, they may have looked away from the sort of preparing players, drafting. They draft well. They probably drafted a lot of good players, but they were more of a trade deadline type of team trying to get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
It's cost them some draft picks. The Ryan Miller fiasco was hugely costly for that team, but they got through it, and they did have a couple of good young players come up this year. Now, I personally don't remember who the Calder Cup, the Rookie of the Year nominees are this year, but if they did the selection after the postseason as opposed to at the end of the regular season, I think that Bobby Fabry and Colton Parayko would probably both have gotten some, pretty good consideration. They have some good young talent, but they have some really solid veterans too.
Yeah, and like you said, Fabry, he played very well in the playoffs, and I was really impressed with him.
Yeah,
he's going to be a bright piece going forward, and so yeah, it's definitely exciting things ahead, for the Blues. It's not just this year, but upcoming years as well.
So congratulations to Hitch and the guys for finally, finding a way to make it deep into the playoffs. I'm sure they're not totally satisfied. So that's looking back. We'll look quickly ahead. I put a list together of the players by position just based on their own website. We can take a look at the draft and what kind of money they have and stuff like that coming up. But they look like they're pretty solid at pretty much every position. They have a ton of centers, maybe even too many. David Backus, there's a bit of a question mark there. Him being a free agent, maybe that's the biggest question mark on the team right now. They do have some other good centers. And again, these are players that are listed as being centers. That doesn't mean that's where they played. I just went on the website and got the positions they were listed at, which I guess is their natural position. I'm sure that these guys didn't all play center for sure, but Paul Stastny, he was injured a little bit this year. He did play 64 games. He got 49 points, only 10 goals. I think, he can probably do better than that if he could get more games under his belt, and I don't think that he might have been a second line or third line center with Backus, there. Yori Laterra, he's had a great couple years. He's actually 28 years old. I didn't think he was that old. Robbie Fabry, 37 points in his rookie season, which puts him right in the mix with everybody there at that center position. Patrick Berglund, he's another one that's full of potential. Maybe guys that are going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be tougher for Brodziak and Ott to stick with the team, although they do bring something.
Brodziak stepped up and scored some pretty big goals
in the postseason.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
And that might help them,
Yeah.
So Backus, that's the big question mark. Out of the center, Stastny led with 49 points. Backus right there with 45. He's not on the team because he's going to put big points up. He's an energy guy. He's the captain, and he would be missed. But his name has come up as well. I mean, he's a free agent. If they were going to sign him, you would think they'd have done it by now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should be looking to sign him. Maybe it's only to a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this would have been a lot different team in the postseason if he had not been there.
Yeah.
And just what he's been through with this team, he wants to win. He wants to win a cup with the Blues.
Yeah.
That's his number one priority.
Yeah.
And I'd say bring him back. If they don't, there will be teams chomping at the bit for him.
Yeah, he certainly helped his cause, I think, in the postseason. Maybe not so much during the regular season, but in the postseason, he definitely, he's a heart and soul guy. He was very emotional at the end of the run, which makes you think he really wants to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Time will tell. Not much time. There's only a couple weeks, and they'll be ineligible to sign him. So if they are going to bring him back, it'll happen pretty quick, I guess. So that maybe is the biggest off-season sort of question mark with the team as of right this moment. Things are going to change. Let's take a quick look at the right side. A lot of talk about TJ Oshie leaving the team last year, and maybe Troy Brouwer living a little bit in his shadow. But I thought he came on in the playoffs really well. We're looking at right wingers right now. Tarasenko is the clear number one on the team, but I thought Brouwer, he really brought it really all season.
Yeah, he had a good season, scoring 18 goals. So it's not, it's not TJ Oshie's numbers that he did with the Blues. But when you look at who performed in the playoffs, man, Troy Brouwer brought it in the playoffs, and that's what they brought him in for. Yeah. And I think at a couple times, he let his emotions get the best of him, took some bad penalties, but man, did that guy score some big goals for the Blues.
There were so many big moments for them because they went 7 games twice, and they had overtime games, and just really needed big goals at big times, and that's why guys like him and Backes, I think, they really made their presence felt.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A few others. Scotty Upshaw came on as a PTO. Didn't really rack up a lot of points, but I'm interested to see what they do with him. I don't think he's a big contract. You can probably talk about that later, but I don't know. I kind of like him. He's a good veteran presence, and I like him. Dmitry Jaskin is a young sort of up-and-comer, I guess. He did play 65 games. He's 23 years old. And then Ryan Reeves, he's another one I think that had a pretty decent playoffs. And Ty Ratty, mostly with the Chicago Wolves. But they're pretty solid on the right side.
Yeah, sure. Reeves came in, he's not a goal scorer by any means. He's not going to be putting points up on the board. That's not what he's there for. But when you look at when he came in and played, didn't start the series off against Dallas. Came in, and he got under the skin of Dallas, and that's what he's there for. Yeah. So,
like Shaw, Andrew Shaw. Yeah. Really good. That's a good point. On the left side, Alexander Steen. He also was injured, I think, at one point during the season. He played 67 games. Not terrible. 17 goals, a little low for him, I think, but he makes his presence felt. He did get 52 points this year. Jaden Schwartz, he's 23 years old. He's really found his niche on this team, I think, and I think, the guys on the left side maybe just need to put the puck in the net a little bit more. Steen with 17, Schwartz with 8 goals, 22 points, and Magnus Pajärvi, he played only 48 games and only had 9 points. So the left side, a little bit of a weak spot, but I'm sure there was other players that were playing on that left side that I just don't know of right off the top of my head.
And Schwartz, he was injured for a good chunk of the season.
He was too, yeah.
But he's a good young player that they're going to be looking to sign to a long-term contract.
Yeah.
And he performed. He was one of the ones that performed really well in the playoffs. So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's quickly look at the defense. So I know that I'm running along with this. This team, I mean, top to bottom, I think maybe the best defensive team in the NHL. San Jose had a great defense too, but when you look at names like Petrangelo, Shattenkirk, Bouwmeester, Gunnarsson, and then add in Parayko, not a bad rookie.
Yeah.
Edmondson had a so-so playoff, but he's young. He's only 22.
Yeah.
Robert Bortuzzo's right there, and then Lindbaum and Butler. But at the top, those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names, 6 names, I guess, if you include Edmondson, just solid. To the point where I have heard rumors, and I think you've heard them too. Shattenkirk's name has come up. There's nothing concrete there, but I was a little bit surprised when I heard it. But I suppose if any team can afford to trade a solid defenseman and maybe get a replacement for Oshie, this is the team that can do it, can make it happen.
Yeah, if they're going to trade Shattenkirk, they're not going to be looking to get something like a first-round pick this year, first-round pick next year. They want something that's going to help them in this next up-and-coming season. And that would be, obviously, if they're trading a defenseman, they're going to be looking to get something, a powerhouse on forward.
Yeah, the name that we've heard a little bit, I think you heard it too, Nugent Hopkins from Edmonton, a team that's desperate for defense. And that's there's nothing. I mean, that's just a rumor. But that just kind of gives you a gauge of the sort of talent level that they're looking at.
Yeah.
And you plug a player like that in on this team, and I don't know, maybe that is what takes them to the next level.
Yeah. And I think Shattenkirk is a very good defenseman. A lot of teams are going to be interested.
Oh, heck yeah.
And they would get something good for him. And they got the depth. I think Lindbaum sitting down there. I think he's going to be a good young defenseman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they definitely have the talent.
They are
and they are a big team.
Yeah.
Big defense,
Yeah.
aside from Shattenkirk, but who plays a lot bigger than he is.
And they're younger than it seems. Bouwmeester, that's a name you've heard for several years now. You kind of think of him as being kind of a cagey veteran. He's 32.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 5 years left. I mean, there's no rush with a guy like him. He's going to be around for a while. The only thing I wonder, and then again, you're going to have the facts on this in a minute, but with that much talent on the blue line, you're going to run a hefty paycheck too. So.
And that's the biggest reason right there why they would look to trade Shattenkirk, looking ahead into the future.
Yeah. So then finally, looking in goal, we already talked about the tandem, Elliott and Allen, and they really do work in tandem. If you look at games played, Elliott with 42, Allen 44. They did more go with the hot goalie this year, where I think maybe in past seasons they just flip-flop back and forth. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they did go with the hot guy. Elliott got a bulk of the work in the postseason. But like we said, Allen made his presence felt, and when he came in, he delivered.
Yeah.
I think both these goalies had some time on the injured list over the course of the summer. And not much though. I mean, when they did, the other guy more or less sort of shouldered the load. Jordan Bennington and Phoenix Copley are a couple of young players in Chicago. They're still probably a couple of years away, but they each played a game, and Anders Nilsson played 3. But I don't think there's any question that this team is going to count on these two goalies for some time.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at the money, this is as of today. Now, it could be different by the time this video hits YouTube. As we know, this is going to be a busy time of the year. But you look at some of the unrestricted free agents. You got David Backus, who made 4.5 last year. Troy Brouwer, who made 3.6. Steve Ott, who made 2.6. I kind of suspect they'll probably let him go in attempts to try to sign more talent. Jaden Schwartz, who's going to be a restricted free agent this year. He made 2.3 last year. They're going to be. It does sound like they want to sign him to a long-term deal, which is part of the reason they might look to trade Shattenkirk. who's going to be a free agent, not this season, but the following year. Kyle Brodziak, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He made $900K last year. Dmitry Yaskins, restricted free agent. Scotty Upshaw, unrestricted. And then Magnus Pujärvi, who's going to be restricted. That's all their forwards. And then actually, on that deep defense, Jim, they lose nobody this year. But they're also looking ahead to next year, where they're going to have Colton Parayko, Robert Bertuzzo, and Kevin Shattenkirk, who are all going to be free agents. And Parayko's going to be looking for a long-term deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. He would definitely be a restricted.
Mm-hmm.
But,
He is.
he'd probably still be looking at some kind of a hefty raise.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And, I mean, this is a team, you look, Vladimir Tarasenko, $7.5 million. Very reasonable for one of the elite goal scorers in the NHL.
Yeah.
And he is signed forever. Basically to the end of his day. Not really. But 8-year deal.
Yeah, when you look at, like, he had numbers that were comparable to, like, a Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And $7.5 million, that's a bargain for him.
Yeah. When you're looking at players, you know, like Stamkos this year is going to be looking for 10. 10.5 to the Taves and Kane, and 10 to Kopitar. 7.5 is a steal for the Blues.
Yeah.
Sign him to an 8-year extension.
He's only young too, isn't he? He's only 23 maybe? 24, Tarasenko.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got plenty of big years ahead of him.
Yeah.
He petered out a little bit at the end of the playoffs, but he's just getting started.
Yeah. And then you look at, on defense, they got Pietrangelo signed to the 2019-2020 season. So they're going to be good there for a while, too.
Yeah.
So
So you think that what they're doing is, if they're not shopping Shattenkirk, but they're letting people look and kick the tires or whatever, I guess. And you think what they would do, just, like if there's an equation that you have to go with, it would be like they spent a little bit too much money on defense and maybe not quite enough on forward. So they're looking to maybe convert a little bit of that.
Maybe. I think it's more so, Shattenkirk makes 4.2, and he's going to be looking for a raise next year. I'm guessing around the $5 million mark, 5.5, probably what he gets in free agency. But, I mean, they're just nervous that they're not going to be able to hit that cap and have the offensive talent going forward. So, if they do look to trade him, they're going to be looking for, star on forward, because he is a top pairing on most teams.
Yeah, they're a unique team because obviously they got to stay on the cap and they got to look at that kind of stuff, but they're very close. I mean, I really do think this team was not that far off of maybe a couple bounces, and maybe things are different with San Jose. They're not that far off. They do have a lot of the tools they need.
Yeah.
There's some huge decisions here in the next couple of weeks. Like, unfortunately, no news is bad news, I guess, if you're looking at the Backus thing. Like they maybe, if they were going to sign him, they maybe should have done it the day after they got beat up in the playoffs. But I don't know. There's still some time there, and if they do lose him, I'm just worried because he was like an emotional, like he's a captain. I mean, he's an emotional leader. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. You think they might be able to free up some money? They're going to make some moves. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to have the money. Looking at it here, Backus is motivated to play there. I'm sure he wants to finish it. Wants to be there for the end with Hitchcock. So I think there's motivation for both sides.
Yeah.
Wanting to keep Backus there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of Backus wants to make good money, and he's looking for a little more term than I think the Blues are probably wanting to give him.
Yeah.
But I think in the end a deal will happen, and Backus will stay in St. Louis.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be huge. Hitchcock, sign Backus. Oh, actually, not Hitchcock. I don't know who the GM or the GM signed back as. Get him back in the fold. You got to do it, buddy.
Yeah.
And I guess that's all we have on the Blues. We're gonna stop this here. We ran kind of long, and we're gonna do a couple more of these, and we'll get them out ASAP.
Sounds good. Stay classy, Midwest.